Hey!
So it's Sam and Launa again for our first ever bonus episode, take 2.
Yeah, we had a rough time filming this one.
The first one ran over an hour, and it was just the first book and season. So if anybody ever wants to see that footage, we'll happily be bribed with money for that.
Yes.
Yeah, unreleased, unedited thoughts and feelings.
Yes.
So we learned our lesson. We've actually, unfortunately, had to do a little bit of this off air so we could know how quick to make this go.
Yes, and I think you guys can get a good idea if you guys are watching this. We are going to be comparing Bridgerton, the Netflix series, to the books.
Yeah, that should have been obvious, and I didn't think to say that. So it'll be just, obviously season 1, season 2, and book 1 and book 2. So the premise was I hadn't read or watched these, and Lana had watched them but not read them. So I said, I'll read these, and then you rewatch them, and then we'll discuss.
Yes, and I was totally fine doing that because I love it.
I suffered. I suffered greatly.
It's worth it, Sam. I promise.
We'll get into the opinions. So the first book is The Duke and I by Julia Quinn, published in 2000. Oh, they're mild spoiler warning.
Yes, and the series is rated MA on Netflix, so if you guys are very sensitive to certain topics and graphics, it is for mature audiences only.
Yeah, so mentions of sex and things like that.
Yes.
Alright, just to run through main characters: Daphne Bridgerton, Simon Bassett, Anthony and Colin Bridgerton, and Violet, and Miss Whistledown. At least in the book. There's other characters. There's more characters.
Yeah, so which we immediately noticed a major difference because one of the main characters I listed was Queen Charlotte, because you cannot have Bridgerton the series without the Queen and her hunt for Lady Whistledown.
She's not in the books at all. Not even maybe later in the series. She's not been mentioned at all. So tell us about what is she? She's a queen.
She's the queen, and she's amazing, and she has this great storyline on the side about her husband, and it's just very sweet and endearing. But then, as a front, she's very obviously
the queen.
Yes. It's very prim, proper, I get what I want, and that's why when Lady Whistledown comes into town, she's not happy because Lady Whistledown knows everything before she does.
So does she disclose any of the queen's secrets, or is it just she's just on the scoop in before?
She's just kind of on the scoop in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she doesn't really know anything about Queen Charlotte herself necessarily. Okay. It's just Queen Charlotte wants to be the one knowing everything.
Okay. Not
the one being told.
And we get Miss Whistledown a little bit in the books. It's between every chapter. She kind of talks about what the chapter's going to be about through a newspaper article or something. And we don't know who she is. We get allusions to she's riding nearby or stuff like that. But yeah. I have my suspicions on who she is. I think it is either one of the Bridgerton sisters. I think Eloise. I thought it was her, or Mrs. Featherton. There was one other person, and I can't think of who it was. But yeah, it's one of... it's a side character in one of the books. It was this stuffy old lady who Simon liked, who kind of everybody feared. I liked her. I hoped it was her.
Yeah, well, and if you watch the series, and if you've already watched it, you already know who Lady Whistledown is, and I will not spoil it quite yet for you.
Did they tell you first season?
Yeah. Very end of the episode 10.
Okay.
You find out who it is.
Okay.
And it's amazing.
Right. And then we also noticed a difference between Colin, his plot line. So in this, he's just kind of just a mischief maker. He's probably my favorite brother because he had a personality. The other ones didn't.
And see, that's what, in the series, all of the brothers, except for, the youngest children, but Anthony, Colin, and Benedict, they all three have a little bit of a personality at least. Benedict, not as much as Colin. But still, and Colin has this entire side plot that apparently never happened in your book, which is amazing to me, with Marina Thompson. So, do we want to dive into that whole hole?
Just to skim over it. So, because Maria Thompson's not in it unless she's a side character in one of the other books. And she might be in his third book. They could be pulling details from other things, but...
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, because it did not happen in the book, I'll just quickly go over. So, Marina Thompson is a cousin to the Featheringtons. She is pregnant from her boyfriend, who currently is in the army, And before she has the baby, she needs to basically entrap a husband. That way she can still maintain her dignity and pride and her image. And she sets her sights on Colin Bridgerton, the sweet, loving boy that everyone loves, including
Sweet's going
Penelope.
a bit far.
He's very sweet in the first season.
He's a troublemaker in the books.
Well, I guess that's another difference that we will eventually talk about when the third season comes out.
Hopefully.
But yeah, so that's basically the short little why there's even a plot surrounding it.
I wonder about the soldier boyfriend. Does he know about this? Is he just gonna come back and be like, "Oh, you're married? That's my child." Like that could come back and be an issue.
If I'm remembering correctly, spoiler alert, the boyfriend's dead.
Oh.
And she does not know it until the end of the season.
Way to get out of that plot hole.
Yeah. Just throw that in there.
So besides those two like plot lines, most of the book seems to be the same. Like, you know, Simon having issues with his dad, then meeting Daphne, they do the fake dating thing, and then they get caught in a promiscuous position, so then he has to marry her. But he doesn't want to marry her, so there's like a duel, but then Daphne shows up with Colin's help and stops the duel, and then they end up getting married, and Simon refuses to have kids, and then there's like a scene where it's probably kind of very, very much morally gray to the darker side.
Yes.
Of Daphne taking advantage of him while he's drunk to be able to try to conceive a child, and they split apart because of that, and then she thinks she's pregnant, lets him know, he comes rushing back because he missed her, and he's like, he just forgives her, and it turns out she wasn't pregnant, but these things still work out, and later in the epilogues they have children and more children.
Yeah, that's basically, I mean, we sat down and really compared the plot of their whole romance, and it was almost the same, or at least I thought it seemed that way.
It changes for book 2, and we'll get on that. So, our thoughts, we gave it a spicy meter and a romance meter. Spicy meter, I did 2.5 out of 5, and I was being generous.
I did a 4.9 out of 5 for the spiciness level, and I think that's because they tried to sex it up a little bit for season 1. Season 2 was not nearly as, like, graphic and didn't really have as much spiciness to it.
I heard that was a complaint.
Yeah, but see, and I love that about season 2 because I don't really need all of that for a show. But I do think it definitely caught everyone's attention.
Yeah.
And that's why it did so well on a second season. So I think they kind of used that kind of mature
pool.
Yeah.
Romance, 3 out of 5. I didn't think they had any chemistry, but like once they got married, they were very cute for their honeymoon phase, so I gave that to them. But Simon and Daphne didn't have much going for them as characters, and I remember being really upset because they're like, "Oh, you're so funny, you're so witty," but if the author has to tell you a character's funny or witty, they're not funny or witty. Like, it's just, it wasn't her best work. I really suffered for this book.
Yeah, I kind of gave it the same exact rating, 3 out of 5 for romance. I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the whole, like, fake relationship trope, and then it turns into something, you know, I do like the idea, like you just said.
I don't think it did well.
But I feel like it just doesn't compare to other relationships that you see on TV and stuff like that. I mean, it was very entertaining, and I absolutely loved seeing the whole tension build up, but
could not say the same.
Yeah, a little different.
I found all the characters flat and uninteresting. Daphne's like a pick-me girl. She's like, I'm not like other girls. No one wants to date me because I'm one of the pals. And then Simon has daddy issues. Good for him. And then Daphne's brother, besides Colin, basically are like, that's my sister, and that is their personality trait. And like I said, I couldn't even remember Benedict's name half the time because he just didn't do anything. And then Anthony was the one who was like, protect my sister, which is funny as, like, you know, someone with brothers, which is funny for maybe 2 seconds, and then it gets really old really fast. If I had alcohol for every time Daphne said I was raised with brothers, or any time like Anthony got mad over Daphne being his sister and Simon couldn't date her, I would have probably finished the book quicker. I could see how it'd play out as a fun, campy Netflix show. Mm-hmm. I will probably peruse Bridgerton now that I'm allowed to.
Yeah.
I've only saw like minor spoilers. So the romance is hurried. There's no build up to the relationship, and the plot points aren't that great. The big plot point they have is when Daphne takes advantage of him. That's like the first time there was anything of merit in that
Yeah.
plot. And it's the only conflict that exists, and so that's why it was interesting. So
Yeah.
that's any
Sounds about
thoughts. No.
Sounds about right.
So we're gonna move on to the second book, second season.
Yes.
This one was less suffering. I was kind of mad about it, actually. I was like, I didn't want to like it, and I don't know if it's because the bar was set so low with the first book that I just accepted anything with the second book.
Oh my gosh. See, for me, the second one came out, and I was like, I really did not like Anthony because he was just rude to everyone and so overbearing in the first season. And oh my gosh, I love season 2 1,000 times more than season 1 of Bridgerton.
He has some smooth lines. I will give him that. So this one, the second book, the Viscount Who Loved Me, by Julia Quinn, published also in 2000. I don't know how quickly she was churning those out, but yeah. Main characters, there's a difference here. So in the last name, it's Kate Sheffield and Edwina Sheffield, and their stepmother Mary Sheffield.
Yes, in the movie, or I guess the series is a better term, it's actually Kate and Edwina Sharma. And I think they did that to kind of reflect and fit the actresses
who were playing.
Yeah, because, which by the way, oh my gosh, they look gorgeous in every single scene, and I love the way that they casted season 2. It's just amazing. So I definitely think it fit.
Oh, I do have a question. So are the girls twins in the show?
No.
Okay, because I've only seen snippets and I didn't obviously study it. So so then that means that Mary was Kate's stepmother.
Yeah.
Then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just curious. And then there's Anthony, Bridgerton, obviously, Benedict, Colin, Lady Whistledown, Daphne and Simon make an appearance.
Yeah, and see, that's, again, I feel like the characters, they fit more into a series because you can fit more quicker into, a show than you can a movie or a book. My bad. But, Eloise actually gets a little bit of love action in season 2, and it's very slow building there, and nothing, drastic happens. It's more of, she discovers someone that can keep up with her own wit, and that is Theo Sharp.
Yeah, she's not even really mentioned much in the books other than maybe at a family dinner or something.
And see, it's a very big plot point in season 2 that she's kind of stepping out into society just like Daphne did in season 1.
Yeah.
And she's very, drastically different than Daphne was. So it's a very big plot point. And Lady Featherington, aka Portia, her husband has died.
Oh, no.
Yes. Which means that they need another man to step in.
To pay that money.
To pay the money. And the new Lord Featherington comes with his own set of issues that we will get into. Yeah.
So this one actually had when we were talking about it, had the biggest changes. It starts out with Anthony's story. He grew up in a loving family. His father died tragically from a bee sting. They never outright call it an allergic reaction, but that's, I guess, what it is. Yeah. And then so he's convinced he'll die young, that he cannot outlive his father because he's got a father complex because, why would she write anything new? And so you enter Anthony, who's in his 30s, trying to find a suitable wife, but he doesn't want one for love because that would be so cruel when he dies young to have left someone he loves behind. So he's just like, anyone who's smart and pretty will do, and he kind of lands his eyes on Edwina, but Kate's like, you can't date my sister because you are the worst rake of them all, because that's all Julia Quinn can write, are rakes, and they're not even that rakish. Anyway, and then Kate meets Anthony through Colin at a ball. That's a little different, I don't think, but it's not a major plot point. And then Anthony calls upon Edwina and only runs into Kate, and then they end up taking a walk with the dog, and the dog gets loose and finds Edwina, and the dog jumps on Edwina and knocks her into the river they were standing next to, which is different.
Yeah, I actually had to replay that scene when we were talking about it the other day because I couldn't fully remember. Edwina doesn't fall into the river. It's Anthony and the man that Kate was kind of flirting with. He showed interest in Kate, and obviously that ticked Anthony off to no end.
Oh, see, that's not even in that, because no one shows interest in Kate in the book.
Yeah, well,
you have to have a rival.
You have to have a rival, yes, and the rival only lasted about 2 seconds. but they both fall into the lake, and you see this beautiful, beautiful scene of Anthony getting out of the lake, white shirt, just clinging to his body.
You know, there was a similar scene in the first book where the youngest Bridgerton boy knocks over Anthony and Simon into the lake. So, they could have done that, but no, they had to save that scene for a form of that scene.
Yeah, true.
And Anthony does get wet-ish in the book, but he just kind of steps in and helps Edwina get out, and then he leaves Kate with the suitor and then takes her back home. So this is where it gets very different, and this is actually where I started to enjoy the book. So Edwina gets sick because she fell into the lake, and Lady Bridgerton has a party. It's a musical, and there's an opera singer from Italy, and apparently Anthony had been canoodling with her at a previous point, and he's so pent up with emotions and longing for Kate. He's like, I want to fling, so he talks to the opera singer. Of course, Kate's there, and she sees Anthony. She's like, I don't want to see him. So she ducks into a room at their house. That room ends up being Anthony's office. Well, she's like, oh, cool, I'm safe. And then, no, the door opens, so she dives under the desk. And Anthony's, talking to her, to the opera singer, and, she's overhearing this, Kate is. And then Anthony goes to pour a drink, and the drinks are behind his desk, so he pours, and he looks, and he sees her. And, yeah, it's a very good contentious scene.
I kind of wish that would have happened in the series. That didn't, we got to see Anthony and the opera singer in season 1. And I think there's, a smidge of season 2 where he's just, curious to see where she is in life, but she's kind of changed a little bit. I can't fully remember now, but there are some run-in scenes, and you see the tension, and that's why I love it so much, because it's just tension.
This is where they have their first kiss, though.
Really?
Yeah, because he sends the opera singer out, and then obviously whirls around like, what are you doing here? And she was like, look, it was an accident, and start arguing, because I think he steps on her on purpose, and she hits him,
Yeah,
and then
I would have loved that. That sounds so good.
It was, and then he kisses her basically because he can take what he wants, and he says some not great things to her actually, and then so she leaves feeling kind of used and abused, which I don't blame her, and and it was a scary situation, I'm sure, for Kate. It's been a minute since I read it, and then so next when they meet, he apologizes for his behavior, so there's all that, but he was Kate's first kiss, and that was how it happened.
Gosh, I would have loved to have seen that in film. That would have been great.
And then so after that, they go to the Bridgerton estate in the country, and Violet makes a point on inviting all the Sheffields, or the whatever their name is in the show, and they play Pall Mall, and of course Kate cheats but also doesn't cheat, she just basically creams Anthony, and that's great for her. Anyway, so then this is where it gets different. So hold on, they go to the library, or she goes to the library late night, she can't sleep, there's a storm, Anthony discovers she's afraid of storms. It was very tender, he was very sweet to her. And then so the next day, knowing all this stuff that Anthony's been doing for Kate, she finds him, they talk in the garden, and she gives him permission to marry her sister, because she has no reason to say you can't marry him. And then during that talk, a bee comes over and stings Kate on the collarbone, and it just panics. Anthony panics, can't handle it. He gets to the point where he rips down her dress and tries to suck the venom out of the bite. Yeah, suck the venom out of the bite. And they get discovered at a very risque position. Does this sound familiar? Because it is. And so they're discovered by Violet, Mary, and Miss Featherington of all people. So they have to keep her quiet. And so about it. And then obviously they get married. And of course he's like, they're happily married, but he's not telling, he tells her before they get married it's not going to be one out of love. Says him when no one else believes him. Even Kate doesn't really believe him when he says that.
That's so dumb. I do like the way, after hearing you describe it, I like the way the series is on that scene a lot better. He doesn't rip down her dress and suck out the venom and all this crazy stuff. Why would you even do that for...
Because he's panicked.
I know, but still, it's not gonna save her.
It's all the men are rakes, and there's all
I
want somebody in Bridgerton, and it could happen in the later series, to just actually agree to marry someone. They don't get caught in a compromising position. Even if they don't like each other, they agree to marry each other for some reason.
Mm-hmm. That has yet to happen.
Some other, besides getting caught in a risque position. Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, they don't get caught in a risque position in the garden scene in the series. So what happens is she gets stung on the collarbone, like you said, and he just kind of gets dizzy, panic attack, kind of vibes going on. Camera's shaking, it's going around and around, and he basically just has to sit there and let Kate calm him down. And it's one of those moments where it's like, yeah, it's them two. It's Endgame. And it's just very sweet. And I love the way that Kate, like, just kind of takes care of him in that moment. But you can also see just, like, how absolutely panicked he is and how much he cares about her. And it's just amazing.
So in the book, they get married, and then I wish it ended there. I really did. It was great, but then they didn't resolve their unresolved issues. Like Kate's still afraid of storms, and Anthony's still got his daddy issues, and they go about solving that. Kate's mother died tragically during a thunderstorm, so she, like, as a kid, has that in her head. And they go talk to Mary and find out that's the case, and then all of a sudden her bad dreams stop. And then they go and make love, because that's what they do in these books. And then she's like, I want to be with you forever. And then he goes, oh, I can't do this right now. Leaves. Go talks to his brothers, because they're the only ones who could talk sense into him. And then goes, oh crap, I love her. And then he goes to go find her, and she's out on a ride with Edwina, and I think the suitor from the very beginning, in a carriage. And the carriage tips over, and he freaks out, and she's bumped her head, and he, but she wakes up, and he's like telling her, like, I love you, you can't die on me, and he pulls her out from the carriage, and she's got a broken leg, and that's kind of how it ends, like, because they're already married. And then of course there's like the epilogues, but I'll get it's different.
So it's very different in that sense. So basically, despite the fact that they know they care about each other, Kate's just like, okay, well, Edwina needs a husband. You need to marry her. Gives, like you said, gives him permission to marry her. But then Edwina, on the wedding day, discovers everything that's happened and is mortified and is like, well, I'm not marrying him. And basically completely destroys her relationship with her sister for a little bit. Well, Kate goes on a ride. She's just on horseback. There's no carriage. It's just her. Anthony finally starts chasing after her. And I believe the horse somehow, I think, either goes off of a rock or, like, trips over something, and she, like, bumps her head so hard that she's knocked unconscious for, like, a week. And Anthony is terrified that she's going to die and that he'll never see her again. So, like an idiot, he doesn't go and see her while she's knocked unconscious. She wakes up, realizes he never came to visit, thinks that he doesn't care about her, and they're back 15 notches all over again.
So make note, men, if your wife ever rides a horse and knocks her head against a rock and is in a coma for a week,
bring her flowers before she wakes up and hates you all over again.
Yeah. Just visit her once.
Just visit her once. We're really not that difficult. I don't think we are anyway.
They better be good flowers.
Yes, but he does bring a very good bouquet of flowers eventually. They get married out of love because Edwina gives them permission. And it is just very, like, sweet the way it ends. Like, they have this whole, like, croquet or whatever.
They call it Pall Mall.
Pall Mall?
P-A-L-M-A-L.
Okay, so they have a game of croquet.
Yeah, croquet.
Croquet. And they're married all over again. It's just competitive spirit, and it's just happy. And that's how it ends.
And that's how it ends in the epilogues. There was a second epilogue, and I can't, because when she originally wrote the books, it had an epilogue, and then when the series got a bump again, she went back and wrote a second epilogue, which is years later, which kind of spoils, because the first book spoiled me to who Colin ends up with, because they mentioned it, because he's there with his wife and their children, and they're talking about it. So, spoiler, if you don't want to get spoiled on the other books, I guess don't read the second epilogue. So, what are your thoughts for this book? What's your romance meter?
So my romance meter is a 50,000 out of 5. I know I can't actually give it that rating, so 5 out of 5.
I give it 4 out of 5.
I absolutely love the way they wrote it, and
they had chemistry.
They did, and you could see it from the second. I think there's a line in there where when they finally realize that okay, they're gonna end up together, everything's gonna work out, she says, there won't be a day where you don't vex me, and I just loved that for some reason.
That is nice,
because it's so honest and true.
And both characters are very similar. Like, the whole time you're hitting your head against the wall, you're like, look, Kate cares about Edwina, her only family, and Anthony's the exact same way. They both put family first. Just get together and have a family. You're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Spice meter 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I gave it like a 2 out of 5, but I will say there is one extra garden scene in a certain episode that is definitely a 5 out of 5 on the Spy.
I'll give Anthony this, he's very smooth, and there was a scene where they're, I think after they're married, obviously they're honeymooned, and Kate's still concerned that he wants Edwina, and he makes it clear that that is not who he wants, and I thought that was very, very sweet of him, and I liked Anthony a lot.
Yeah.
So he got a character upgrade from the first book. From
100%. Yeah.
That's my sister. Then he was a jerk, but then I realized he had to be a jerk for the character development, and I accepted that. I like him. I hate to admit that I enjoyed this book, and I'm not sure, like I said, if it's because the first book set it so low, but the characters had a plot, and there was character chemistry, and yeah, and Anthony has some really swoon-worthy moments.
Yeah, I definitely think we can agree that season 2 / book 2 is far better than the first one. And we do have all of the books. I believe we have the entire series here at the library. If you do want to come and check it out
and see for yourself, like, and if we don't have it here at King Family, which I believe we do, the other ones are probably at Seymour or Kodak, and we're happy to put those on hold for you down at the circulation desk. And I don't think the DVDs are out yet, so we don't have it on anything other than Netflix. So, but once the DVDs are available to buy, I'm sure the library will get it. We also have the unofficial Bridgerton cookbook, if you feel like making some tasty treats for a tea time thing. Or just kind of, it's just a pretty looking book in general.
It really is.
So would you continue to watch the Bridgerton series?
Oh, 100%. I'm definitely sucked in.
Would you read the books?
After hearing you talk about it, I definitely would not read the first one.
Yeah.
And I guess that's one of those other things, going back to that whole idea of like reading the book before you watch it versus watching it before you read it. It's very, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose situation. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how the other books play out. I'm not curious enough to read them. I would probably look them up online to see how they, because like I've seen people turn them in and I'll read the back of the book and I'm like, I'm kind of curious, but like it's more of a morbid curiosity, I think. But I do want to watch the show, and if you guys are interested in knowing my opinion on the show, I guess comment or something on one of our platforms if you can, and we'll try to probably fit it into maybe a regular episode.
Yeah, and if you guys do like this movie book comparison, let us know. I mean, you guys can even just come in to the library and talk to us, find one of us, and we'd be more than happy to hear your opinions.
Ooh, shout out to that lady that you were getting coffee from.
Yes, oh my gosh, the sweetest girl working at Smoky Mountain Espresso leaned out of the window. I was like, "Are you a librarian?" I was like, "Yes, I am." And she's like, "I just watched your podcast," and I know her a little bit, but just to hear that from someone that I don't like know on a personal level was just so, like, it just warmed my heart. So thank you guys. If you guys see us and you do watch, let us know, because it makes us feel better about ourselves.
Because we feel bad for torturing Ben once a month.
Yes, because he does a lot of work.
He does a lot of work. He has to sit and film it and then edit it. I don't know if you guys are interested, but the other ideas we're having for the book to movie, or just book discussion, where the dog dies, books where the dog dies, and were they worth the read or watch, or how did they emotionally damage us? Maybe we'll do a tearjerker.
Yes, why are authors so obsessed with that?
Or like a good one would be like, hey, did all these tearjerker books, did this book make you cry? Did you cry for The Notebook? Did you?
The answer for me is probably all the time, yes.
I cry very rarely. So yeah, and if you guys have awesome ideas, drop them off to us, and we try to do these quarterly episodes once every 3 to 4 months. We meant to have this one out in June, sorry. But sorry to all those people that I told it was coming out in June. It's coming out now in July, so life happens. Alright, so I guess that concludes everything. You got anything else?
Just thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it.
Yep. Alright. Bye-bye, and thanks again, Ben.